All right.
Same here.
Twins.
Yeah.
Good morning, everybody.
Hey, Charles.
How we
Hi,
all
Charles.
doing?
Great. Glad to get back.
Yep. It is the beginning of 2022. Wow.
Wow.
Not quite. 10 days in.
Yep. Yes, it's already slipped up, and we're already in the middle of it, and we hadn't even realized it. Somebody's all blurry. Oh, what is going on there?
I think
Okay.
it's me. You said your video is unmuted.
I'm sorry, what, Rebecca?
It says my microphone is unmuted, but the video is stopped.
Huh. Okay. Well, it's Bernice, it's all blurry.
I'm not blurry. I'm not on at all. I got some tape on it.
I don't know. We get this kind of interesting looking screen that has light and dark areas in it. And,
Oh,
so-
that's Rebecca.
no, it's you.
That must be
Oh,
the
no,
tape.
I was just saying there's Rebecca. Veronica, I'm sorry.
Well, Veronica. Okay. All right. Anyhow, well, it's good to see everybody here. Hey, Veronica, how you doing?
I'm doing well, and you?
Well, it's been an interesting morning. First of all, I'm on my little tiny Mac because my big one, even though I got it back from the shop and it was working perfectly fine the other day, seems to be acting up. So we're on the little Mac for a little while. So things run a little slow on this because it's full of stuff, and I got to spend my afternoon getting stuff off of it so that I may be relying on this for a couple of weeks, it looks like. At any rate, other than that, it's been a good start to the year, and we've got some good stuff to look forward to. Did everybody else?
May I ask something? Huh?
Sure.
Well, I got your first email with all of the days, and I got a bunch of emails with just one.
Yes.
So what happened? I haven't erased nothing. I'm saving in case because I don't know what you did.
Yeah, okay. One, I sent out the list, okay, with
Yes.
all the links, okay?
Yeah, that's what I use
No.
it now.
Yeah, and that's fine. You can hold on to that. For those people who put things in their calendars, okay?
Oh.
All right. In Outlook, I set up all the classes in Outlook, and it sent out an invitation. All you had to do is click on it and go accept. If you did that, what would happen, is that it would automatically put it on your calendar for you. So there would be a link on your calendar. You could just open up your calendar, click on that. It would take you to the class on the appropriate day. Okay. Because I know that John and several other people are just trying to find that email all the time.
I don't use calendar, so I can erase all of those individual emails.
Yeah, you could.
Oh, okay, thanks.
What I wasn't expecting was an alarm to go off. Reminder of the class that I wasn't expecting. What's beeping?
Right. Yeah. It'll do little things like that. It'll give you like alarms and stuff. It's like, okay, what's that about? Yeah, if you don't watch out, your life will be so full of living now.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make my life simple, not complicated with those things. So
Okay. So here, let's see who's here. We got 14 of us. Wow.
oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's a good start, isn't it, for the year?
Yeah, love it.
Okay. Anyway, let's see who we got. Betty, Gwen, Darby is here. Yay. Okay. Hadn't seen her in a long time. Rebecca, Richard is here, Claudia's here. Wow. Okay. June is here, John, Bernice, Armando. Eloise is here somewhere. I saw her. Let's see.
Yeah,
Oh, there,
she's
there.
up
Here.
there, I'm looking at her.
Uh-huh. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So so let's talk about this year moving forward. All I can honestly tell you is it's a big question mark right now.
Mm-hmm.
With what's going on with COVID right now, the intention was that they were going to reopen the center and they were going to start having people show up, to do what they called hybrid classes. So some people would be in the studio, some people would be online. All of that's been put on hold, with no idea as to when that will kind of kick back in again. Beyond that, and Armando, this probably affects you and anybody who goes to the center to get lunch. I think they were talking about ending the meal service where you go in and you buy your lunch and then leave. Now they're going to make it strictly drive up. You don't get out of your car, and they'll bring you. Unfortunately, it's a cold lunch option, but they'll bring it out to your car for you, and basically just hand it to you. I think they were having some question as to how they were going to handle that as far as people buying lunch, because what they don't want is they don't want you handing them a credit card or anything like that. They really don't want any kind of exchange. They just basically want you to drive up, crack the window, the lunch goes in, bye.
So it's free.
Huh?
It's free.
No, it's not free.
So how you pay?
Well, I think that's what they were trying to figure out. And I don't know what solution they came up with on that. Anybody got any insight into that? Anybody heard anything about it? Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm sure you will over the next couple of days. But yeah, they're trying to figure out, how they're going to get lunches to people and stuff like that. So it's, it's kind of an interesting time. I mean, it's not quite a step back to square one, but it's close to that. So, I think they're just reevaluating and trying to figure out, okay, what's next and how are we going to do this? So, but that's kind of where we stand. Okay. Anybody got any comments about that? Anything to say? Come on.
How can they make it least complicated? Like have a set price and have your money in hand? I know they don't want to exchange money, but should they buy like a week's worth ahead of time and then just give a ticket or something like that?
Well, I think what they were doing is they were going to have people sign up online.
Right.
Oh, now that makes more sense.
Yeah.
Actually, that's
We're-
what I
we're-
was thinking.
Yeah, we're basically, and that's what they're trying to figure out, is how you would actually pay for it.
Mhm.
And so you would prepay online. You basically just drive up, identify yourself, get your lunch, and go. That would be the ideal.
Right.
Mhm.
That's what they're talking about.
Well, I'm just happy everybody's safe,
Mm-hmm.
So whatever we have to do, we do. I just have to see that everybody's here.
Mhm. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, and that's the key thing, is that
Yeah.
everybody stay well and safe and not,
I don't care how mild it is. I don't want to get it.
no, getting sick is no fun for anybody
Mhm.
or anything. So yeah. If you could avoid it, don't do it. So anyhow, So today, let's see, anybody else got anything they want to ask about the coming year? Any concerns, anything you want to bring up? Anybody? Come on, this is your moment. Okay, all right.
I would like some open air classes, as you mentioned earlier,
Mhm.
because I did a little bit of painting. And my thing is, I know what I want, but I don't know how to get there. I'm thinking if I had some open air classes, that at least I could say, okay, tell me how to do this. You know?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, I know you show it online, but it's not the same as say, okay, you're not moving the brush the right way or whatever, you know. It's
Yeah.
not the same as on hand. So
Yeah, and I was kind of looking forward to that. And I was kind of hoping that we could start that in April, you know.
mhm.
I would still like to start that in April, you know, but again, you know, we'll see kind of where this goes. And then we'll adapt accordingly. You know, I'm certainly willing and would look forward to being able to go out and do some, you know, plein air classes, where we could all actually kind of get kind of in the same basic area and then, you know, get around to work with each of you a little bit. You know, I would really enjoy doing that. And, you know, around about April, when the weather starts getting warmer, it would be fun to go do that. Today, I like being inside. Yeah.
It's cold.
And tomorrow.
It's cold.
Yeah.
I still go out though, no matter how cold it is. I still go out for a little while, no matter what, you know.
Mhm. Yeah.
Mm.
Well, I'm on this thing right now where I'm trying to get outside at least a half an hour a day.
Yeah.
You're crazy if you want to be outside.
Huh?
You're crazy
on.
if you want to be outside.
No, I said I'm trying to get outside for at least a half hour a day, because
Oh.
of, you know, the sunlight, vitamin D thing.
Yes.
You know,
Oh, yeah, the sun is out. That's it.
it is.
Beautiful.
You know,
Yes.
no, I'm
Beautiful
not,
out there,
you know,
actually.
no, I'm not going out in a pair of Speedos or anything like that. I'm you
I
know,
hope not.
I'm well, no. Nobody wants to go there.
I got my bikini on. I'm going out in a minute.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Yeah. But no,
But that's why we can't see you.
yeah. I'm just headed out to go get a little bit of sunlight. You know, it's good for you actually. And necessary. So a little bit of sun every day is good.
we have the
So-
swimming pool open.
No, not at the center. Yeah, there's nothing open at the center.
Here in my complex.
Oh, in your complex. Okay, yeah, yeah. If you live in a condo or something that they've got a pool, yeah, go sit out by the pool. You know, take a cup of coffee or whatever with you. You know,
Not me.
go put your feet up. You know, we're talking, 15 minutes. You just want to get a little sunlight on your skin. So good for you. But let's see, but yeah, getting outside would be great. You know, love to do that. And we will see where it goes from here. So, so I got a couple of things I want to share with you guys today. It being the very beginning of the year, the question is, what are our goals? What do we want to get accomplished this year? What would we like to do? As an artist. Okay. And then, how would we go about, maybe accomplishing some of that? And so I have a video from a young woman who she's doing what you call a challenge 365. And I've seen a lot of this. In fact, I've participated in things like this, where the basic goal is that you do a painting a day. Okay. And she's got an interesting strategy, for her 365 days of painting. And so what she basically does is she does like probably about a 6x6 little canvas every day. And she paints in acrylics, so she can paint, pretty quickly. It's not like she's painting in oil and that will, take a long time to dry. So she's working in acrylic and she's doing these little scenes. And some of them are probably from reference, some of them are probably from her head. But the thing is, every day she's painting. And I think that's a good idea, all right, to try to do work every day. She's doing it in a very kind of systematic way, and I can see where there would be advantages to it and where there might be maybe a chance that you might develop maybe some bad habits in doing that. Anyway, I'm going to share this video with you. I want you to look at it, and then I kind of want to hear what your thoughts and your views on this are. Okay, and just as an idea. Okay, so as I said, I've got a very slow computer today. It takes a little bit of time because it thinks about it a lot. Come on. There we go. Okay. Where'd she go? Maybe here. Okay.
365 painting.
Yes. Okay. All right. So I'm going to do a full screen. We're waiting. There we go. And I'm going to back her up to the very beginning. Now she's English. Sometimes not really easy to understand, but listen carefully.
So a 365 challenge is any kind of practice that you want to dedicate yourself to daily. So for a period of a year. In Lorraine Lintz's case, it was painting a miniature painting. I think they're about the size of a 5-rand coin, watercolors. And in my case, it was doing a miniature acrylic on canvas painting, measuring about 7.5 by 7.5 centimeters. I'm always painting nature because nature is where I derive all my clarity and insight and inspiration. It's the revisiting of all the things in your life that have defined you to not be an artist, for example, which you're kind of coming up against. Narratives like the world says, you're going to be an artist, you're going to be poor and broke your whole life, and you're going to marry rich, and like all these kind of stories that we're told when we get pushed through the, formal education sausage factory. And if that stuff comes up for you and you work through it, your own personal narratives that your own mountains that you're trying to climb, and they come up through the daily iteration of giving yourself over to one craft, one art, one task, it could literally be, it could be crochet, it could be knitting, it could be woodwork, it could be sculpting, it could be music writing. But if you give yourself over to the one task of doing something daily, these other things tend to surface. And that was the miniature nature of painting mini nature for me. If we expect the creative force to manifest all the abundance that we want in life, we're not really showing up for the creativity for the sake of the creativity. Or it's with ulterior motives. And you're almost trying to exploit your skill to bring you what you deem to be wealth, material wealth, fame, success, or whatever it is. And when you're able to work through the process and just show up to it daily, some days it's great and you feel really inspired and the painting comes easily, and other days it's hard because you set that bar for yourself. On the hard days, when you butt up against the I can't, or this is stupid, or this is never going to make me famous, so I'm never going to be able to achieve those material world successes that I'm told art won't get me. It's in those little niche pockets of the process that the real wealth for you, for your own psyche and development emerges. And you are able to let go of the crap, and you're able to let go of the narratives, or at least face them head on and identify that they are just stories, that they are just myths and other people's fears that have been like propagated over onto you as a young child growing up, speaking freely into the world, saying, I want to be an artist when I grow up. And someone goes, oh shit, you poor naive little fool. That's not how the world works. And then you get given this like shitty stale bag of chips. That's the stuff that comes up during the hard days. And when you can face it and identify with it and a little bit just like wriggle yourself free of those ropes and binds, that's getting actual freedom and actual abundance and actual liberation. I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with Instagram. And this was another one of the things that I butted up against personally, was the objective to like, are you only worth something if your art is being valued by the world? And if you're, becoming instant famous and having thousands of followers, and if you don't get likes, then why are you doing this journey? And you should just stop because no one sees and no one cares. And then on those days, you have to remind yourself that you didn't do this for other people. You did this for yourself. So actually, the likes are wonderful. I mean, you get support from people who are genuinely following your journey because they've somehow become invested in it. Those relationships are really rich and dynamic, but they exist in really small clusters on a platform like Instagram. It was just nice. It was a nice little community of people who genuinely gave a damn whether I was doing this thing or not. And they would send me encouraging messages about, I look forward to your painting every day. And that kind of stuff would feed my soul on the hard days where I was just like, I don't want to do this. Let's just give up. Let's over it. Fuck this challenge. My boyfriend Vic would always say to me, challenge, you can make up the rules. It's not like you're following, you're not going to fail the 365 at university. I'm a pretty OCD person in that regard. Like I'm quite hard on myself. I set myself sometimes unrealistic high expectations and standards. So, but for example, on a day where I just, like give myself to it in the depth of detail that I had been painting in. And so I would, out of sheer desire to like just get it over with, because like 100%, there were days where I was just like, okay, I'm just gonna slap some fucking color on this canvas so this day can be done, and it's not gonna be a perfect artwork. I'm not gonna win awards for it, but like day 75 out of like it'll be done. And in those days, like on that particular day, I would just grab a palette knife, which I hadn't painted with in that medium yet, because a palette knife is large. It doesn't intuitively lend itself to miniature painting. And I would just like slap a bunch of color on the canvas and smear it around and then do like a black silhouette of something. And then feel totally like breath of fresh air liberated because I had unintentionally kind of stumbled upon or uncovered a new way of painting something. So I had taught myself through that breaking of a rule, a new technique. Imposter syndrome is definitely a thing. The feeling that you are unworthy of what you are creating. You'll have like a couple of good days, like a run of like good days where you're in a groove, you're in some kind of sense of flow, and it's, you're producing artwork that people respond to and they really resonate with. And then suddenly that inspiration rise up. And then you suddenly think from one day to the next, you're a total fraud because you don't have it. And here you are trying to inspire other people to do this thing, but you're sitting here like literally unable to produce a painting that compares in essence to the paintings you've just done the week prior. And then you become kind of haunted by the sense of unworthiness in, I'm not talented, look, it's just dried up, I can't keep it up, I'm phony here, it's never gonna go anywhere, and that's fair. So after the 2019 painting challenge was over, I finished the last painting on the 31st 31st of December 2019. And I was going to exhibit in March 2020. And then COVID happened and everything stopped. And all my ambitions of putting this out into the world just had to wait, like everybody else's dreams. Towards the end of 2020, during one of the lockdown breaks that we were fortunate enough to experience in South Africa, I came into contact with an incredible ceramicist and artist called John Bauer, who has a little studio in Montebello, which is just like a little slice of heaven here in Newlands in Cape Town. And I told him my story, we got chatting, and he invited me to be part of a little co-artist exhibition space at his gallery. And he decided to name the exhibition Small Miracles, which is totally what it was for me, because I had gotten so tired of looking for a way to kind of get this out to the world with the lockdown waves like going up and down, that I kind of just detached from it. And then John came along and helped me kind of realize that part of the story, which was amazing. I'm very grateful to him for that. Something else that's also really important to me that I actually unpacked and wrote about on my blog was the environmental impact of creating art. It's very difficult if you are aware of, if you're kind of, we're all inundated with the climate crisis and what's happening to the planet that we're living on. It's quite challenging when you want to make something and it requires a fair amount of resources to sit with the dichotomy of, well, I'm making art, but I'm also making a ton of waste. And for me, the way it played out for me with acrylic painting is that acrylic paint isn't recyclable. The paint itself has like a plasticated quality to it. And so the way I used to do it and the way we did it at school and in art college is you put acrylic paint, you use kind of like upcycled plastic lids or polyurethane kind of vegetable containers, and you use those as your, or cardboard as your kind of palette. So if you're not using a plastic palette, because it doesn't wash out very easily. And then when you're done with it, when your painting's done or you're finished painting, you toss it. We didn't know any better back then. We weren't thinking. The way that plays out now, or the awareness that we have now, is that if you throw that polystyrene container or the plastic lid into the bin, caked in acrylic paint, it's not recyclable. So you are condemning something that is potentially recyclable into like block a hindrance down the road. And the way I made peace and resolved this challenge for myself was that I started painting on glass as a palette. Many years ago, I learned about the art of making eco bricks. I have 1 2-liter milk bottle that fits all the acrylic paint that dried on my glass palette. I would scrape off with a blade and I would just compact it into this 2-liter bottle. And then they use these bottles to build structures with. All that waste was saved from a landfill, and that gave me an immense peace of mind to create without the sort of burden of what that's going to do to the planet. I think probably one of the most significant awarenesses that I allowed myself to come to terms with during this challenge was the realization, and it has a lot to do with pride and ego, when you've kind of struggled a lot through life and you somehow feel like you have to do everything on your own. You have to show people that you can do it and you don't need their help. That's such a shit thing to put on yourself, because when you sit down and you say, okay, I'm going to do this creative thing, and you ask the universe, you're like, just help me make this journey, And the way the universe brings you the ability to do this is through family and friends who want to help you. So they say to you, you know what, you don't have to pay as much rent. Or, you know what, don't worry about working your job, I'll support you and you can paint every day. Or your friends buy your art from you in the beginning because they know that if they don't buy your art, you're probably going to eat potatoes. Like, we build these stupid high walls around ourselves because we feel like it's only real success when we've done it alone. But that's the antithesis of humanity. Like, we build and create together, and so we can just put down our pride and let the people who love us help us. Like, it's a game changer. It's a total game changer, because then you, instead of being bitter and angry and struggling, you're filled with gratitude and immense appreciation that you have all these people in your life who want to help you. And wow, that's just, you'd be so prideful that people are. Something that really inspired me throughout this journey, I had it stuck on my art room door in the space that I was creating, is this this Hopi creation story that I came across many years ago, and it ties back into what I was saying in the beginning about how, like, the value that you get out of this process might not be fame and success and material wealth and recognition and, you know, an Instagram account that's going to have you flooded with ambassador offers of some kind. The story goes, creation said, I want to hide something from the humans until they're ready for it. It's the realization they create their own reality. The eagle said, give it to me, I will take it to the moon. And the creator said, no, one day they will go there and find it. The salmon said, I will bury it on the bottom of the ocean. The creator said, no, they will go there too. Then the buffalo said, I will bury it in the great plains. The creator said, they will cut into the skin of the earth and find it even there. Grandmother, who lives in the breast of Mother Earth and who has no physical eyes but sees with spiritual eyes, she said, put it inside of them. It's done. And that story, on my days of I can't do this anymore, made me realize that I'm not going to find what I'm looking for anywhere out there. It is in me. And the creator. I really believe in the value of a project like this for the self and for the personal undertaking. So if anybody out there decides they want to do something like this, in whatever way, shape, or form that is, I'd love for them to reach out to me, and yeah, we can build a little community around people who do 365 challenges. They can reach me at hello@mininature.co.za, and yeah, I'm here to ask or answer or support or in any way that I can.
Very good.
There you go.
Mm.
All right. Anybody got any thoughts about that?
Yeah, where can I buy a bulk amount of canvas?
Practice that you want to dedicate yourself to daily.
Oh, wait a minute.
So for a period of a year. In Lorraine Lentz's case, it was painting, a miniature painting. I think they're about the size of.
Okay. Had to stop that. Okay. All right. So Bernice, you said you got some thoughts about that?
Yeah, I was saying, I wish I could buy like a bulk amount of canvases, like for 300 small canvases. I would love to do that. You know how you say go out and look at something and draw it. I would love to do that daily. You know.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's
but I would need 300 canvases though.
Yeah. Well, okay. So do you have to have little canvases?
No, I could do like 4 on one big canvas, I suppose.
You could do that. You could put it on bigger canvases. What else could you do?
Me?
Yeah, I'm asking.
Do it front and back.
Well, yeah, you could do that.
Oh, I could do it on my paper. That paper I have.
Right. See.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
I have lots of that.
Yeah, and if you're doing drawings, you know, or you're doing paintings, you know, you don't have to have a canvas to work on. You can, and depending on the type of paint that you're using, Oil paint will stick to almost anything. Acrylic
Oh, yeah.
paint will stick to, quite a few things, including fabric, if you want to like paint on your t-shirts or something like that. But also you could also get some pretty inexpensive material. Like, for example, you could get like a very thin sheet of plywood and have it cut up into small little panels, and then put gesso on it and then paint on it, either acrylic or oil. She was using little pre-stretched canvases. But you can also, if you don't have a lot of money, you can also, if you want to order on Amazon or go to an art store like Michael's or one of the local art stores around here, Blick, Binders, they have these little canvas panels, and around that size, they're about $1 each.
Well, actually, you could get two that size at Dollar Tree. It was $3, but now it's $2. But still, for $365, that's still about $150.
Yeah.
I worked on that type of project for a while. It takes a lot of determination to do it every day. I started off with apples and I did an apple a day. I used a large canvas and I divided it into sections, and I was able to put about 30 on each one of the canvases I had. And I also tried portraits, a portrait a day, and I used a large canvas, and it was just to help me to build or develop my skill. And I also used a mixed media tablet and I divided the page. So I was working, I would put about 9, I think, examples on each page. But if you start with a large canvas, a piece of paper or whatever you're using, you can get quite a few on there. And it creates a type of discipline. Now, I now prefer to just do, I try to paint every day, but I just do a few strokes. I don't do a completed picture. Right. But it gives you, it's a disciplinary thing. And since my habits are not perfect, I usually try not to go to bed until I have done some type of painting. So you can use a large canvas and that helps, but that perseverance is trying.
Yeah.
Sound good to me.
Yeah. Anybody else got anything to add?
Well, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm very inspired by this young woman. I think she's extremely talented and was so taken by the process that she went through. And it just hit me that, yes, learning a new skill is a process. You do it over and over and over again in different ways until it becomes like riding a bike, habit forming and easier. I was just amazed at her creativity, and that she went from worrying about the paint, putting it in a jar and keeping it. And I thought, my, how careful she is about her vow to herself to be careful about what she's doing to the environment. And I feel like all of those steps that she went through in the creative process were fascinating to watch and very, very inspirational. Okay. And so what am I going to do? What am I going to do with all that? Be inspired and be energized to find what my process is going to be and to follow up on that on a daily way. And mine is drawing, not so much painting. So I'm very encouraged to draw daily.
Me too. Me too. I will try to find something to draw daily.
Anybody else?
Well, I like what you said at the end. I did know everything Rebecca said, but I also like what she said at the end, the poem that she read about the creative process is inside of us. All the things that we look around and see, it was in someone to create that. whether they came up with the idea, whether they made the product. But I love the fact that we need not go any further. We can get inspiration from other places, but the creative is inside of us, and we just need to keep it moving forward and build on that. So I like that. Very
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, that was actually one of the Hopi creation stories.
Mhm.
So it came from the Hopi Indians, Native Americans.
Yeah, very nice. Thank you, Charles. I like you find that. If you find that poem, just send it out to us. I love it. You know,
Okay.
that can be, it should be something we should put on our computer screen someplace, or a little saying on the wall, so that we just don't feel that we can't do anything at the particular age that we might be at now. That all our creativity, all our energy and inspiration to not just to rest on our laurels and not do anything new or exciting. And I think that's what keeps us all young, if we can broaden our aspects. And I try to encourage people all the time that they should try something new or do something, not just think that they're retired and that means you don't have to do anything. That's when you have the opportunity to do all those things you had on your bucket list when you were young, and just get started. And I would like to tell, I think it was it Eloise or Bernice, that sometimes, like when you're going to school, when you're going to college, you don't know how you're going to pay for it at the end. You know that college costs $50,000 a year. You don't know that. And by the time you finish, it's going to be $250,000. So you don't go because you don't have that. No, you get started. And trust me, someone will come in and help you out. Because matter of fact, Bernice, if you got started and you was going to do that project, I would buy you some of those little canvases or whatever it is you decide to do yours on. And you'd be surprised how people will support somebody so creative, because perhaps I can't do it, perhaps that's not what I want to do, but it might be just a thing for you. And you will get some encouragement from your friends and your relatives if you start your project. So that's what you want to do, that you feel that's going to help you and it's going to enhance your life. Go for it. And just let me know, and I'll be glad to plug in some canvases or something.
Hey, Clark, I appreciate the offer, but I also like what Eloise and one other person has said, and that is either use, the paper that I already have, which is the drawing paper or the mixed media paper that I already have, and the canvases that I already have. And rather than trying to paint on small canvases, just make sections of the canvases that I have. So I appreciate the offer, but I think that's what I'm going to do.
Okay.
Well, the only thing about that, you cannot show them individually in an exhibit or anything. I like her idea. If you were gonna display them someplace, you need those separate canvases, I think.
Well, you can. Depending.
My idea, my goal was not to display them anyway. My goal was to improve daily or weekly or monthly. And so, if I get to the place where I need to display them, then I will think about buying canvas. But right now, I just want practice paper,
Yeah. Well,
Charles,
yeah.
Joe, I just want to remind you and some of the other ones that remember Phyllis Hadley. She used to draw all those miniatures, and we displayed them during the nights of the evening of the arts. She did beautiful small paintings and just a series of them. So you never know if your things might be on display. So, and it shows how you started at the beginning and where you end up. So you might want to consider something might be more permanent. You can always paint over if you don't like it.
Right.
But, you might inspire someone else. You never know. You might inspire someone else.
But what's wrong with displaying the whole page? Even if you got 9 things on it.
Nothing. There's nothing wrong with showing it that way either. But I was going to say too, if you're working on a canvas, right? Depending on either a canvas panel or a stretch canvas, right? It comes with a stretcher. That doesn't mean you can't take that canvas off of the stretcher. If it's like a stretch piece of canvas, you could take that off the stretcher and then, cut that canvas into smaller sections and then mount it on, you know, a piece of board, right? And then put it in a frame separately, if that's where you ended up with it in the end, and you wanted to show them as individual pieces. So, you know, just because you paint it on a big canvas, doesn't mean it has to stay that way. You know, artists will work on stretch canvases sometimes, and they won't like the composition or the proportion of the canvas. So they'll do, you know, the painting, but then they'll take it off of the stretcher bar and they'll cut it into the format that they want, and then remount it and then frame it, you know, the way that they like. It's easy, you know, if you get a 11 by 14 and it all works out, you know, and the composition works at 11 by 14, but, you know, just because you have an 11 by 14 canvas doesn't mean you have to paint all 11 by 14 inches, right? You know, you might decide to, you know, crop it down, you know, get rid of part of the painting that you know, you don't need or you don't like, and then reformat it, you know. So you've always got options, you know, you're not, you know, you're not stuck if you don't want to be.
Charles,
Yeah.
Charles, if you wanted to follow up on that and get a piece of plywood and cut it up and then put canvas pieces on it, what do you do? What kind of glue do you use to attach the material canvas to the wooden board?
A lot of people just use that Elmer's white glue.
There you go.
Yeah, but
Everyone has some of that.
oh yeah.
I have access to some of that.
Yeah, but what I recommend, you know, better than Elmer's glue is just clear acrylic, like matte medium or gloss medium, any kind of acrylic medium. You know, just paint it on the board, put your canvas down, smooth it out, and then let it dry. It will permanently bond that canvas to the wood.
All right.
You can even
Or you can just,
use acrylic paint, but you know, if you don't want to waste paint, you know, you can use you know, just the clear, you know, gel medium or any kind of medium. Okay.
or you can just paint directly on the plywood, sand it and make it smooth and paint directly on the plywood.
Well, yeah, you can. Yeah. We're talking about if you had something that you painted on, like you were talking about painting several images on a canvas and you wanted to remount it separately, you know. So, you know, I mean, there's lots of options out there.
I can hardly wait for class to be over so I can start sectioning off some of the canvases that I have.
Yeah. One of the things I think that she touched on, and it's kind of important to keep this in context, all right? You know, she's obviously, you know, in a different place in life than any of us, all right? Because she's much younger. And her concern was, you know, how do I validate myself as being an artist? And then how do I survive? You know, how do I make a living? You know, how do I get, you know, how does this feed me? You know, keep me fed, keep me sheltered, you know, things like that. Many of us are not in that situation. You know, we're not concerned about, you know, having a roof over our head now, you know, in regards to having to make a living as an artist, you know, and off of the art that we sell. And so for us, it's a very different proposition. See, it's more about, we're kind of in that later phase of life where we've resolved a lot of those issues. And now it's like, what do we want to create? You know, what do we want to create? What do we want to do with our time? How do we want to make our time meaningful? You know, and, you know, so we're dealing with a different set of issues than maybe she is in that regard, but still, you know, it's that, how do you get motivated? You know, how do you get motivated to go into that studio every day and create something? You know, some days, you know, it's going to be something that you really like, you know, something that you respond to. Other days, it's going to be hard because you don't feel like, anything's coming, and it's not easy and you're struggling. And I guess what I would offer to you about that is that for every day that you go in and it's a struggle, at some point it turns around and you actually end up getting something out of that process. Those ideas, those creative ideas, sometimes they don't just pop out. Sometimes they take a long time to really kind of emerge for you to figure it out, what you're trying to say or what your goal is there. But it will come. But it will only come if you practice. If you're trying to do something really almost every day. And that doesn't mean that you have to spend 8 hours in the studio every day. I mean, when I first started going back and trying to start painting again after a career in illustration, one of the hardest things for me was to spend time in the studio. And so I made myself basically take 1 hour out of my day, and I would go, down my studio, which was down in the lower part of my house at that point in time. And I would be there for 1 hour. Some days I would draw. Some days I would just kind of do little sketches, not really get a lot done. And it took about 4 months. And within about 4 months, for me, it became much easier for me to A, get myself to go there. And then B, when I got there, I was my head was kind of in the space where I went down there with a purpose and I wanted to actually do something because I had ideas. I had things that I wanted, to actually create. And it did. It took me some time. And I know my situation was really different than a lot of you, but coming from a background where I was being creative on demand in an advertising agency and always had clients or somebody telling me this is what we want and never having to think about what it is that I wanted to make myself, that was a big change for me. And it was a struggle, when somebody's not pushing you, or telling you, okay, in our universe, the world needs this, go make it, right? And you're sitting in a situation where it's like, okay, nobody's telling you to make anything. And it's like, what do you do? Where do you find that thread, within you that wants to tell a story, that wants to share things with people? And what do you want to say? And how do you want to say it? So that was my own personal struggle. So anybody got any ideas about that?
Charles, you've always been an inspiration to us. Thank you for telling us about your struggles. And it is a struggle.
Mhm.
It's a struggle, but it is a struggling process. Something always happens and you learn how to overcome that. And I think that's such an interesting perspective, because isn't that life? You just have to overcome all your challenges and you're always stronger and better on the other side.
I'd agree with that. Yeah. Anybody else got anything to say? You guys are so quiet. Come on. You've been away for 2 weeks. You got to have something to say.
Well, I try to draw every day. That's what I try to do to some degree. Sometimes I don't get to it because other things get in the way, as usual, as life throws things in your direction from time to time. But I'm also wanting to try new things all the time. I mean, so it's just kind of, if I, like, for example, the thing I have posted behind me is I did a kind of a bastardized pointillism kind of a thing here. and just learning how to do that, which was fun to do in acrylic and quick, a couple 3 days over time. But
Cool. So instead of strokes, you put points of paint.
Right.
yes,
Yeah, like little dots. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, little is relative.
Right.
Some of the suggestions I have found was the fact that I used like an eyedropper kind of a thing.
Oh, wow.
And they may, and that created some challenges because when you first get the paint in the eyedropper, it kind of spreads because you thin it out a good bit, and all of a sudden you have, instead of little dots, you've got big dots. and then when you get to the end of what's in there, it starts blowing bubbles, and the bubbles kind of go all over the place. So it's an educational kind of thing, and I wound up doing a number of things. I wound up using a cotton swab that you use to clean guns with, and it's like a little pointed thing, and then that kind of got messy. So then I turned it around and used the stick end for making dots on things. And my next thing is I'm going to try to use some tattoo needles, which will give you very fine points.
Yeah, that would be real fine. Yeah.
Do you have a final composition in mind when you do this?
Well, actually, I found the picture of the cactus in a magazine and said, well, that's kind of cool. And so it just kind of lended itself to the approach I was taking. But certainly I am no Seurat by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
What is it called? Excuse me.
Go
I was
ahead.
wondering what is the name of the process again?
Oh,
What's it
pointillism.
called?
Yeah, pointillism.
Pardon? Pointillism. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's time consuming, trust me.
Yes, it would be. Speaking of Seurat and pointillist painting, which is kind of an offshoot of the Impressionism. I mean, it's operating under the same overall concept, which is, when you're painting impressionistically, you're putting color in an area, but it's kind of all based on how much of each color you have as to optically what color you actually create. And pointillism really gets down, to, that whole idea and the scientific approach about, the percentage of color in an area. But the thing that a lot of artists go to as far as a basic tool for pointillism is get you some old brushes and use the end of the brush to apply the paint. Not the hair end, but the wooden end. So you're dipping it in your paint, and that's what you're making your little dots with. And if you have different size brushes, right? So you've got some, big, fat, thick brushes, and you've got some really thin little fine brushes. You can make different size dots, in each of these areas. And that's how you transfer the paint. And that's always a really effective tool. So if you got a bunch of old brushes around, you don't have to throw them away. You can actually use them, for that technique, right?
I think that's very creative, Robert. You did a fantastic job. I will always admire that when I see it behind you as a backdrop. Did you lay out a lot of various colors of your paint, like in your blue, because you have several different colors in the blue, light blue, dark blue. Did you lay all those different on your palette? Did you all of those there at one time, or did you just go back in and make things lighter or darker in certain areas?
I had a variety of colors. So, I wasn't depending upon a dark blue and then adding a little white next to it to create that illusion of a different shade. I'm going to have to put the mute on here because I've got a vacuum cleaner running in the background.
Oh, okay. All Yeah, a pointillist or impressionistic approach, in creating color, it can be, you can really learn a lot from that approach. And if you really study how they laid color down, like for example, Monet, he was basically working with the three primary colors, plus white. And then he was mixing a black, to make not really a black, but a neutral. And then, so he wanted a blue sky, but he wasn't just painting it blue. There was yellow, there was pink, orange, all kinds of colors were in that sky. And when you back away from it, it looks like a blue sky. But as you get very close to the painting, you begin to see that there's a lot of little paint strokes in there of a variety of colors, to kind of create that overall optical effect. So, it's an interesting approach. And a lot of you like to sort of follow that impressionistic kind of approach to your painting anyway. And so, it would be probably a good exercise at some point in time if you just experimented, if you not physically mixed orange and blue together, but what would happen if you put orange next to blue and made a lot of little paint strokes in an area and then backed away from it and looked at the effect of it. You might be kind of surprised about, what that would do optically, when you step back about 6 to 8 feet, and how it affects, the colors around it. So, good experiment. Okay. Let's see, John, we haven't heard anything from you today.
No, I'm just taking it all in. I was just thinking especially with pointillism, though, you really have to know your color palettes and what you were just saying, which colors you can put next to each other, that when you get away from it, it gives the optical illusion of a different color. Like you said, maybe putting reds and greens, and when you back away, it's brown, things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because, and particularly if you're using colors that are what you call direct complements, and they're in the same area, then they create sort of a neutral color. And if you have a lot of green and very little red, then it's a very muted green. If you have more red than green dots, then it becomes kind of a muted red. And so it's again, it's kind of that percentage of how much of one color versus another, to get that overall effect. But, you guys should play with that a little bit, and see what you can come up with. You could actually get some really, really beautiful effects in your paintings, by playing with things like that. So I would encourage you to do that. And in fact, here maybe on Wednesday, I'll try to find something that will kind of explain that either pointillist or impressionistic approach, and have some examples for you guys to look at, and where we can kind of really zoom in and look at a couple of paint surfaces so you can see what they look like optically, when you look at the overall painting, and then look at them when they're close up and see actually how those colors were constructed, on the paint surface itself. So I think I've got some pretty good photographs of, some of Surratt's work when I was at the Chicago Art Institute. And I think I can pull some of those and show you, how he kind of approached, that, how he mixed color, actually on the canvas. So
Yeah, if you look at a Surratt up close, it's a mess.
How do you spell that name?
Surratt. How do you spell Surratt?
S-A-R-A-A-R-T?
Yeah,
Something
again.
like that.
S-A-R, S-A-R-A-R-T, okay.
I think
So,
it's S-A, I don't think it's
But
S-E.
it's okay. If I look up pointillism, I will probably find it.
Right, yeah, if you look up impressionism or pointillism, you'll
Mhm.
find Surratt in there
Yeah,
somewhere.
I'll find it.
One of the other things I did, and I'll send you this for tomorrow's discussion, but I did, one of the images that you sent out was of a gentleman, obviously of the maybe 1800s. It was kind of looking down, and I did a really, really light sketch of that one, and then I did basically a pointillism technique in order to get the shading in it.
Okay.
So it turned out decent, which a good practice on the use of how many dots you put in an area in order to create that value change
Right.
that you need in order to show, depth and roundness, that
Right.
kind of stuff. It's kind of cool.
Yeah. Yeah, when you're using that as a drawing process, it's called stipple.
Right.
So yeah, if you're drawing and you're using like black dots, then it's, like, let's say that you're drawing with a pen. And a lot of artists who would draw with pen, they would use those little dots in there to make soft gradations rather than lines or hatches. So yeah, that's called stippling. And yeah, you can do some beautiful drawings that way. So, okay. Somebody has. All right, Wanda wanted to know, is Richard okay? Let's ask him. Okay. Hey, Richard.
Yeah,
How you doing, sir?
I'm awake.
You're awake. Okay.
Oh, he
Well,
was
that's 99% of everything. You're here and you're awake. Okay. All right.
Okay.
How's the new year been for you so far?
I'm better than I was.
I'm sorry, what?
I'm better than I was. I'm proceeding to recovery.
Okay. Okay, good. Yeah, we're glad to hear that. Yeah, it's good to see you here. Okay.
Good to be seen.
Say what?
It's good to be seen.
Oh, yeah. Yes, it is. It really is.
You.
Okay. Let's see. How about Gwen Darby? We haven't heard anything from her. And most of you haven't met Gwen, because Gwen, can you talk to us?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you now.
Oh, okay.
Happy
Hi,
New
Gwen.
Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year to everyone.
Yeah,
Same to you, Gwen. This is Claudia. Same to you, my dear.
yeah.
Yes. I'm just coming in from a medical procedure where I was knocked out this morning, so I'm kind of laid back.
Okay. All right. So you're all mellow, huh?
Yeah, very mellow.
Being mellow is good. Yeah, yeah. How's the new year been for you so far?
So far, so good. I've had projects.
Mhm.
So I've just recently had the exterior of my house repainted.
Oh,
And
that
it's
was good.
beautiful. It's beautiful, Gwen.
Thank you.
Mhm.
that's right.
Have you
guys
seen
are
it from the road, Claudia?
Yes, I do. Every time I go down the road, I see you. Don't you see me waving to you? You never see me waving?
Oh, yes, of course. And waving back.
Yes.
All right. Okay. Have you been doing any artwork, Gwen?
No, I haven't. So this has been my first time to really free up some time in the last little over 2 years now.
Okay.
So I'm interested in getting back in, and I thought this would be great to hang out with the artist again.
Well, you're more than welcome to drop in anytime and say hi. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. We got, let's see, what time is it? It's okay, it's
11:12.
12. Okay. All right. I had another video that I wanted to share with you guys, and we could probably get it in if I cut out a lot of the front end, which is It's from Streamline Publishing. And it's by really one of my very favorite painters in America today. And his name is Kevin Mcpherson. Really, really good painter. He's doing a demo, and he's talking about a workshop that he's going to be putting on. But he has a very interesting approach, and this is not how he normally paints, but it's something that he's kind of been experimenting with and he's come up with. And it's an interesting idea, and it kind of folds into that idea of what Bob was approaching with pointillism, right? But it's not pointillist painting. He's painting in kind of like almost like a grid. And he's going in and he's putting what he thinks is the overall average color, for that grid should be. And it's an interesting way of approaching painting. So I want to share that with you, and then I want to close it up after that. So we won't watch the whole video, but we'll just watch kind of the demonstration part, and we'll cut out Eric Rhodes and all of the sales type stuff. Here it is. Okay. And that way we can squeeze it in, and I think you'll get the gist of this. Okay. All right, come on. Where are you at? There you go. Okay. All right. So I'm going to hit play now. Like I said, I'm going to skip forward.
Hello, everybody. I'm Kevin Mcpherson. Welcome to my studio. We're going to spend some time together, and I really think I have the opportunity to change your life as an artist. My feeling is painting is very simple, but it's not easy. But with the years of experience of me painting for myself, 40 years of painting, and with my university instruction, and studying with many great fine artists along my path, I've found ways that I can communicate with my students, I think on a perfect level, because I remain a student. And I know how you're thinking, and we all communicate differently. We all come from different backgrounds, different experiences.
Okay, I'm going to skip ahead.
Working with my many students over the,
All right.
when I go out along the pond and paint our scene later, my first thought is, how can I take the water, the trees, the fishermen, the logs, the grass, and try to paint that? Sometimes the subject's overwhelming. There's so many elements in there. Well, if I squint my eyes, and I think I was born with a squint-essential pair of eyes because they're so narrow, I don't hardly have to even squint them. But by squinting down, we can simplify that scene that has so many elements in front of us, so much overwhelming information, it kind of frightens us. Where do we start? We have now reduced the scene into two parts, part of light, part of shadow. So that's something I can control. That's something I can do. I can say, I can paint two parts. And all of a sudden we have a way of simplifying our subject. So that's the first thing that I would encourage you to try to understand. When I was an illustrator, I went to the illustrator's workshop. Great painter, Bob Keith, great illustrator. His first demonstration was turning a light bulb on a plaster head. And he says, this is what it's all about. At the time, I didn't know what that meant. I didn't quite understand. But it took a while to get me to understand that. But that's the light bulb moment. So that's one of the things we're going to cover along in the overwhelming topic that I call the magic grid. The other thing that really helped me along my path. I went to training for illustration, so I got a lot of fundamentals of drawing. That's one of the foundations that will make things easier for us. And it's a lifetime endeavor, always to improve your drawing. But I'm going to talk about simple ways to improve your drawing in this magic grid system. So let's back up a little bit about the light and shadow. We want to divide it into two parts. The grid will help us divide things that affect it. The drawing, the grid that I will show you will help with your drawing. And again, that's one of the key fundamentals that every artist needs, that ability to draw so they don't struggle with trying to communicate to their audience. Color is going to be the thing that separates a lot of the artists. You know, I'm considered a colorist. If people look at my work, that's probably the first thing they reflect on or admire, that my sensitivity to color. And so my sensitivity to color is really, again, how I see naturally. I am a nearsighted person. And so I see things more in fields of color than I do in detail. And so as a painter, I find that's really quite a benefit. So if I can soften my focus, and if you can soften your focus and start to see color before objects, before detail, that will help you. So this process that I break the picture plane into divisions from these grid patterns are going to help you make decisions with your color. I call it color contraction. We'll talk about that during the week together. So I'm isolating each of those notes of color. So the person that helped me the best with color was Charles Hawthorne, an American painter. And he talked about the color spots. And I never knew what that meant early on. And it took a while working with other artists to help me understand that. And I remember one particular painting that I painted of my wife, Wanda. And it finally clicked, the relationships of color. Everything's related. So this magic grid that we're going to use is going to help us relate the whole picture and gives us a better understanding and a better simplification of doing that. So I call it a color note. I call it value. So each one of these mosaics that are in the grid will have a particular value, particular color. So I use the term value, which mixes value, the black, white, and grayness of the color, with the color itself, the temperature, warm, yellow, cool, whatever it might be. And so we take that one mosaic that's in the grid and we determine what that one value is. So again, it makes our decision process so much easier. You know, when people are out on the spot and they look at the trees and they don't know where to start. They don't know how to simplify it. They don't know how to break it up. They don't know how to look for the variations of the color. So edges is another key factor in making a painting and making the viewer go through the painting the way you want. Again, we're the art director.
Okay. So I'm going to skip ahead here and let's kind of get into the painting part of it.
I'm trying to find a place that I can share some good information with this video, this presentation. And every day, every season here is so beautiful that every time I walk around the pond, I just see different possibilities. So, you know, I look for shapes. You know, I kind of, I often can take my glasses off and it softens my focus and I can kind of see things that, boy, I like the combination, but the aspens, the way the light comes through the aspens, you know, the backlight coming through, you know, it's such a beautiful scene that I've painted before, and time of day will make such a big difference. So I'm going to just walk around this pond. I can literally see, like right here, you know, someone sitting there and the backlight that's happening and some of the dapple lights would be so beautiful. We got dark shapes of the trees. You know, there's endless possibilities for me right here. Your own backyard too. It's easy to take our own surroundings for granted. You know, my place is beautiful. It inspires me every day, but sometimes if I just turn a little bit more this way, I'm surprised, like today, the way the light's coming through here now, backlit so strong, and the little stream coming in here feeding the pond is such a beautiful piece of blue. You know, I always think in pieces of color, you know, more so than, so I split my eyes down, I see patterns. This is terrific because this would be a wonderful scene that has some foreground shadows and the bright backlighting. And it just draws me in because of the light hitting the aspens back here. So I can see a composition. So when I'm looking at things, again, I'm not looking for what we think of a picture sometimes, but how these lights and shadow come together. And literally, like if we just step 2 more feet this way, we may see something totally different. You know, so whenever I'm in the presence of a scene, I take time at, you know, relationships are coming together that I can envision a painting. But I'll walk around it and see if I see a better angle, see something different. You have to remain curious our whole life as an artist. That's the death of the artist if we start just taking for granted and repeating the same compositions, thinking, oh, well, this was successful last time, so hey, I know I can do that one. But how do we keep the fire inside us? That's the tricky part. Sometimes I mentally get exhausted because I can't turn it off. That's the curse, I guess. I feel like I'm settling in on this view, and I think it would be a really nice demonstration place with my fishermen to come down here. And what's interesting today is the light. This is a good time of day. I'm getting some side light coming in and background. I'm getting some really nice bright, warm lights that hit the water. One thing in particular I love is these little aspens down in front of the fallen log, just catching some light like music notes, you know, just tiny little dots. You know, I can see that. So I love having my camera, the phone. I don't use it as a phone really, but I keep it with me all the time. And so when I'm thinking about doing a painting, I'll take lots of photographs, and I could look at them tonight and think about things and see some things that maybe I'll be prepared a little bit when I come back out here tomorrow to do the actual painting demonstration. So do I decide to be standing up with my easel? You know, is that a good look with the figure down there? Or is it better to be back down here? Those are the decisions I'm trying to think about now. When I get back out here, a lot of things can change. It's windy right now. That offers some issues, you know, to deal with. But at the same time, now I'm getting little patterns on the water because of the wind. And so that could add to the painting process. So what's so great about painting from life, it's interactive and it's static. It's a game that's alive that keeps you on the edge. You should always be on the edge, I think, in your painting decisions. You know, take some risks. You know, if we don't take risks and trust yourself that what you want to share with others is beautiful, is valid. You show me what you think is beautiful or what you want to share, and you know, speaks to you directly, and forget what other people say. So to kind of trust your gut that you're doing the right thing. There's so many things. I remember painting a little thistle. It was right about this time of year, a little orange to the fall. One tiny thing to make a beautiful painting. We are blessed to be able to do what we do. Lucky that magic happens.
Okay. Can everybody see the canvas really fairly clearly?
Barely.
Yeah.
But,
I can see what he's got on here.
yeah, but
Yeah.
notice that he's got, you know, like these fairly light grid lines, right?
Right.
So, you know, he's come back in and he's kind of created these blocks, right? And so he's, you know, divided the canvas in half each way, and then he's divided it into a quarter, and then he's divided it again into, you know, a eighth, and then into, I think, a 16th, right? And so he's got, you know, this grid laid in there.
guy after my own heart.
Pardon?
A guy after my own heart.
But it's,
I love to do grids. I love to do grids.
yeah, but it's kind of interesting what he's going to do with this, you know, and this is a process. It's a kind of a study, and it won't go real in depth into how he develops this whole painting, but for the next, I think it's probably going to take about 8 to 10 minutes. Just watch what he does here, because it's again, you know, it's a little bit different approach. Okay, it might be something that, you know, interests you.
So when we're
No,
painting on the spot, you have someone like Ron who's just doing his natural thing, getting tangled up or whatever it might be. Just kind of work on different areas as we're building this painting, and he's up doing this. Now that I have a general placement of him, I can now start looking for some things within the landscape that I can relate to it.
Have a new
I use this as my horizon, where the reeds are, and there's a kind of a nice shape here that kind of undulating some of the reeds in the background there. Then look at the magic, what happens here. If we look in the distant aspens back there, there's actually a leaning aspen trunk right here. So I'm going to use that, how it falls on this line, and then I'm going to find something down here, crosses back. I'll find something of interest down there somehow. If we look at some of the trees in the background, I will use this angle for something back there, and then maybe this one for a pine tree. So I'm very easily falling into place the elements with this little armature, and then these lines hopefully will find something of connection. So Ron is falling back into his place here. That's a nice angle you got there, Ron. You know, that's really nice. It's interesting and challenging to get the dappled light on his body. So if I can get him locked in there somehow, that will be my key to help judge a lot of other things also. So I'm going to use some of these verticals for the tree trunk. Some of the tree trunks are leaning this way and that way. So I may use this as one trunk that's very vertical, but I can also take my tree trunk and start it on this side, then put it on that side, put it on this side, so I get some rhythm happening on alternating sides of this T line here. Maybe I'll put a branch or something happening there. So these are all falling in place. So now the light is on his back, and there's a nice piece of sunlight on the other side of this log here, right in here. So I'll use that. I actually see some thistles coming in here, and whenever I have an intersection, I'm going to maybe put something of interest there. Coming in front of the body, this other bank, I'm going to use that angle right there. But when we're drawing architecture or perspective, things that are needing to be drawn correctly, they go over the magic grid. And so then we create new shapes on top of that. Or sometimes you can use the grid itself as being the correct perspective, but if it needs to have correct perspective, by all means do that. So the fishing pole, you know, I can put it up on this line, I could put it on this line, or, you know, I could just arbitrarily put it anywhere I want. So I'm going to wait with that a little bit and see how things fall into place. I like to start with my darkest dark, and in this case, there's a couple places I can do it. I'm going to choose to do one small dark right down here in that sheet. Then I see another dark. When I start with my darkest dark, that's my guide. So I already have that on. So now I can start lightening things up from that point. Watch how there's some thistles that are catching some light there, and I'm going around them as the shadow in the background. So I'm going around them on those angles that I have established. I'm going to try to build this painting as fast as I can. And using any suggestion I get to add interest and movement and help me judge some of the colors that I see by using the magic grid system. So it helps me look for puzzle pieces of color. You can see each mosaic I put on is because it has a quadrant and makes me think. So just trying to build some things. And I'm going to work how I normally work. When I see something, I'm going to put it down. I'm going to get his general color for his head. Then when I compare his head, I want to make that a little bit lighter. When I see his checkered shirt, I just try to generalize. I'm going to go leave the spot for the sunlight. When I have a dapple light situation, sometimes I jump around light and shadow all at the same time. So the grid actually suggests certain places for me to put some of the dapples. I started with my big shapes, big mosaics, my big stained glass, as Ron pointed out. Maybe he thinks he should be in a church or something. Now I'm breaking those pieces into more pieces and trying to bring some accuracy. And when I see an opportunity to have a light against a dark, warm against a cool, I'll add that to the mix. So for instance, I put a little dot right there, just in front of that shadow side. Then this brighter thing where the shadow side of his vest falls down, just a bright note there. A little sliver of light there against that shadow. So those ins and out kind of help make it more interesting. The cool light from the New Mexico sky fills in the top planes of the shadows with a cooler light, which is nice. And warm grasses will bounce into, for instance, his vest and make some greener notes. My goal out here today is to share the experience of using the magic grid that's going to just help you in so many aspects of your painting. Not only finding clean color notes, because we corralled them in these mosaic outlines, giving us transitions throughout, making it feel like a painting, making your brushwork come alive with just being intuitive about it without thinking, because we're filling in these shapes. There's so many things that I hope that watching this process that starts geometrically, but has a lot of freedom. And you'll see that it just informs me. Make a decision, move on here, make a decision, move the eye, put a little mark over here. You're gonna see in this process, I hope that it may look controlled as we start, but there's a freedom, and then it builds closer and closer to the finish. Hi, I'm Kevin Mcpherson. Welcome to my Magic Grid workshop. Your head is...
Okay. Does that give you guys any ideas?
Yes, it did.
Yes.
Okay. You know, it's, you know, obviously, you know, he's out working on site, you know, from life. But, you know, simplifying your canvas down, you know, whatever you need to do, you know, finding angles, proportions, shapes, you know, breaking it into a grid, you know, any of those things will work. And they're worth, you know, they're worth experimenting with, and they're worth doing. If it, you know, if it's something that you can relate to and something that you can, you know, put to use, then however you want to approach it, that's fine. There's no one way of doing it.
What I thought was interesting is that I thought it was going to be so technical with the grid and when he started out, but as he even said, but by the end of it, it had a free approach looking to it. Technical.
Yeah. Now, you know, later on, you know, when you look at the completed painting, you know, it looks like a lot of his work, which is really, really, you know, very, you know, kind of tight and technically proficient. You know, where we left it was really what we would call the block in. And, you know, I think it's a valid way of working. You know, what he's doing is he's given himself the ability to kind of break that whole scene down into very small areas and then put down an average color, you know, in other words, a color note, as he said. And, you know, the whole thing isn't necessarily that color, but, you know, it's an average of that. And, you know, it gets him something down there very quickly that he can then go back in and freely modify and change, you know, as he needs to. So, yeah, it's, again, as many people are out there in the world painting, you know, that's how many different approaches you've got. And, you know, the goal here is get you guys to think about, you know, how you want to do it, you know, and come up with a working process that works for you, you know, on a regular basis. So.
Charles, would that be a good thing to use if you actually are painting outside when we go outside and we're painting all day, and by the time that afternoon comes, the shadows have shifted. And so if you put that in, okay, if you want to wait till the afternoon to put the colors in, then fine. But yeah, it would be a good help for you helpful if you would just put in the lights and the darks right then. And so when you come back, you can just ignore what the sun is doing and go with your first, what it was in the morning time.
Yeah.
You know, because it's going to change. And so if you want the morning scene, then you'll need to block those lights and darks and everything in the morning.
Yeah, well, a lot of artists who work outdoors from life, you know, kind of take the approach that Monet did, which is they don't plan on doing one painting in a day. You know, they may bring 3 or 4 canvases. They may paint the same scene, but as the day changes, they'll put a new canvas up there and start, okay, you know, this is what it looked like in the morning. You know, I've done as much as I can. I've lost the light. Now I'm going to start painting on this, and I'm going to do, you know, the middle part of the day. And then they'll paint on the middle part of the day for a while. They'll take that canvas off and put another canvas up and start it, you know, one for like the late afternoon, you know, because again, you know, the light's totally different, you know, and they may have to go out there more than one time, you know, to actually complete those paintings, but they've got something that's accurate for that time of the day and for that, you know, scene or that location. So, because one of the problems, you know, and we've all kind of encountered this, any of you who've taken the plein air class with me, is that, you know, you go out there and you're painting and the light does shift, you know, the direction shifts. And, you know, the way we resolved a lot of that at the time was I got everybody up under the trees, right?
Yes.
You know, so the light really wouldn't change that much, you know, during the day. And what we were painting was also under the trees. So again, it didn't shift as much as if you were, you know, out there standing around in the sun and watching the shift of, you know, the direction shift in the light from morning to afternoon. So there's ways that you can get around it. You know, but that comes with experience, and, you know, you have to do a little pre-planning. You can't just go out there and start throwing paint up there and kind of think that you're gonna be able to work on that same painting all day long and get something out of it, you know, that's gonna make any sense. So
I have a question, Charles. Does this painter ever paint portraits this way with a grid?
No, he's not a portrait painter.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has made his name out of you know, really doing landscape. And a lot of times, you know, he'll include figures in his paintings. But he'd be a great, you know, if you really want to look him up, he's got several books out. Actually, one of the very first books that I bought that kind of inspired me to go back to painting in the first place was one of his books, and it's called what is it? It's something about light, you know, painting the light, by Kevin Mcpherson.
Okay.
And it's talking about, you know, painting plein air in the landscape. But his book and then Richard Schmidt's book, you know, were really instrumental in getting me going, you know, back to painting again. And, you know, both of them are well worth reading. So, okay. But, you know, Kevin's book is more of a technical book, you know, but it you know, it's got a lot of good information that will solve a lot of problems for you, you know, so you're not struggling quite so much if you're out there trying to paint, you know, outdoors. So, yeah. Anybody got any other comments about what we saw? Questions? Yada, yada, yada. Come on.
I watched my mother, who was who loved to do watercolor, grid her canvas, and this is the first time I've seen it since then. So, but it makes a lot of sense.
Okay. All right.
How does oil painting with light and color sound for the name of the book?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Painting with light and color. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been out since, I want to say, probably the early 80s, you know, probably when he wrote that. But it's a great book. I mean, you know, really is, you know, pretty inspiring, you know.
Yeah. Looks like it's still in print. So.
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Now that book will be in print for a long time, you know.
Charles, I know I came in late, but could you show a finished piece against what he was blocking out? I didn't get to see that.
Yeah, I didn't,
Is there a way
I
to
never, yeah, I never,
show his work?
yeah, I never got any of the finished, you know, any of the finished pieces. So I don't have any readily available, but I will,
Okay.
you know, I'll get some for Wednesday when we're doing the Wednesday
I'd
thing.
like to compare. I'd like to compare the two. You know, I mean, look how he started and then what he ended up with. If I could put it next to one another to view.
Yeah. Hang on one second. Let me see if I've got something on the, let's see.
While you're looking there, I just want to mention to Bernice, I sent her the spelling for Surratt.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the correct spelling of Surratt.
Right.
Okay. Good.
Thank
Okay.
you.
I sent it too, so she ought to really be able to get it right.
Yeah, I saw it in my text, Eloise. I did see it.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
Okay. You know, it's really nice, you know, how supportive, you know, all you are of each other.
All right, so we're gonna see you tomorrow at 10 a.m. again?
No, not at 10. You'll see me at 2.
Well, in your schedule, you put at 10. Okay, I'm glad I clear with you. So it's gonna be 10 only Monday, Wednesday, and Friday?
Uh-huh. And then
And
2 o'clock
Tuesday and
on
Thursday at 2 p.m. Okay.
Yeah, Tuesday and Thursday. Okay. I'm
Which is
looking
the same
here.
as before, so we shouldn't have a problem.
Pardon?
Which is the same as before, so we shouldn't have a problem.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the schedule is the same as it was last month.
Right, yeah, it hasn't changed. Yeah.
No, it has not changed.
Okay.
Yeah, but no, if you look on the current link, it should say 2 o'clock.
Okay, maybe I was drinking. I don't know.
I don't know, you know. Yeah, I think when I first set it up, the one for Tuesday, I mistakenly missed the time on it, and it originally went out as 10, but I changed it, and I think I updated it, and I confirmed that with John that you know, it did you know, it did come through at the right time. And I think if you look at the email, it says 2 o'clock. Okay.
All right.
So
Thank you.
since you guys are beginning to get ready to bolt out of here and run away, there's one thing I wanted to share with you before I go. And this is something that I just got finished actually yesterday morning. And I've been working on this painting now for actually 2 years. You know, I say I've been working on it for 2 years. I've really only been working on it, you know, I started it in 2019. But I set it aside because I had some ruminating to do about it. And so anyway, here it is. It's, everybody see that?
Beautiful.
It's very nice.
Yeah, I like it.
Very nice.
That's beautiful.
Yeah,
Where's
it's
the setting at?
Is it a sunset or dawn?
sunrise. Yeah.
And where is your place at? Is it here? When you're on vacation or what?
No,
So
this is on the back deck. You know.
Back deck. Okay.
Yeah, here at the house here in
Very
Smyrna.
nice.
Well, so do you live in the sticks?
Well, you would think I live in the sticks, but you know, I live right in the middle of everything in Smyrna. But
Yes.
you know, if you look out behind me, you can't see anything because it's all trees.
Yes.
And then down at the bottom is this little creek, you know, that
Mhm.
flows into this lake, which is called Cooper Lake, right there.
Yes, I remember when you started this, Charles.
Yeah, it's been, you know, yeah, it was like right before the pandemic is when I
Right.
started it.
Now, the only thing about this is that you're doing this plain air and you're going up. See, I was thinking the sky's a little different every day. The wind's a little different, so the branches are a little different every day.
Yeah.
I don't understand how you would paint the same picture for 2 years when everything is going to be a little bit different every day.
Yeah. Well, when I first started this, you know, I started it out on the back deck early one morning, and the sunrise was, you know, very similar to this. But then, you know, the pandemic hit, and I didn't, you know, I'd only painted on it maybe twice at that point. And so it kind of sat over here in the studio for over a year and a half. And then, you know, I went back and I had shot some photos that morning. So I came back in and I started working on the painting again. Now, I didn't go out yesterday morning. It was freezing cold, you know, and I didn't want to stand out there. I think it was, I want to say it was like in the 30s yesterday morning, but I basically got up real early, around about 4 o'clock in the morning, and you know, didn't want to go back to sleep. So I came up here and started putting more paint on this. But mainly what I painted was I really, you know, basically came back in and finished, you know, the areas of the sky. You know, most of the trees and all of the basic layout and everything was already there. I already had a color, a base color for the sky with some of the colors, you know, and the cloud shapes and things like that. But they all tended to be much darker, you know, than what it ended up as. So mainly what I did yesterday was really try to lighten the sky overall and really get this sense of light in there, you know, as it began to hit, you know, some of the tree trunks and stuff. And so.
Very nice.
Yeah.
What size is this, Charles?
Pardon?
What size is this?
It's a 15-inch tall by 30-inch wide.
That's big.
It's very nice.
Yeah.
That's big. Yeah, it's nice.
It is very nice.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I thought, you know, in the end it was worth waiting, you know, to you know, come back in and finish it up. So yeah, I was happy with the end result. But you know, it's one of the things about, you know, working, you know, on paintings on a regular basis. I'm usually working on at least 4 or 5 different things all at once. You know, there's almost never a time that I'm going to sit down and just work on one thing and not have something else going on. And you know, sometimes you know, it doesn't just all kind of flow from beginning to end. You know, it's you know, there's periods of time that you set it aside and you have to think about it. You have to look at it and kind of get a sense of where you want to go next with it. And you know, the key thing here for me was trying to capture that feeling of the winter, you know, with all of, you know, the bare tree branches, you know, that I see all around me, and then how the light, you know, plays, you know, just as the sun rises over that ridge and begins to hit the tree trunks, of which all I'm getting is basically silhouettes, you know. But even in the silhouettes, at times, you know, you'll get a little hint of color, either a warm or a cool, you know, on the edge of the tree. And you know, the kind of light effect that you get. And also the temperature of the air has an effect on the light. You know, on those really, really cold days, you know, the light tends to be really intense, you know, really sharp, really clear. On days when it's a bit warmer and there's more moisture, you know, or humidity in the atmosphere, it tends to diffuse the color more and gray it and soften it. So
You can definitely feel a wind chill factor in this. It's very nice.
yeah, I hope everybody looking at this, you know, kind of gets that chilly feeling, you know,
Yes,
that you would.
absolutely.
But warmed by the sun.
Yeah.
The first frost.
Action.
Yeah. One of the things that I played with in this, and I do on a fairly regular basis, but I try to be keenly aware of it, is the use of what we call temperature, you know, colored temperature. And if you can, if you notice, a lot of these tree branches and things tend to be very cool in comparison to a lot of the color in the background, right?
Yes.
And so you get this overall warm feeling in the sky with the sunlight, very cool or cold, you know, in the middle ground.
Right.
And then to contrast that and to get some of the trees to, okay, we got a little chime going on. Some of the trees to move forward. Notice how I've warmed the color back up in the tree trunks again here. See, just in little places, you know, it's dark, but the temperature of the color mixture is much warmer than what's around it. And so what ends up happening is that it moves those trees forward. See, it separates them and pushes them forward. So you get this sense of depth in there and it doesn't look flat. Anybody able to see that?
Yes.
Yeah, that's nice. Very inspiring.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And so, you know, sometimes, you know, while you're painting, you know, you've got to think about those 5 types of contrast that you're talking about. You know, temperature is one of them. And you can create depth in your painting, not only by how you modulate the intensity, but also how you use color temperature too. And how you play, you know, a warmer area against a cooler area. And so, you know, and the same thing is true when you're turning form. You know, it's not just a matter of value and intensity, it's also that color temperature that will help you really make that thing feel, you know, 3-dimensional and really turn that form for you. So
Charles, how much of the tree did you complete at the beginning, or did you leave most of that for the end?
Well, no, the trees themselves were all pretty much so done. Now, what happened when I got up here in these little fine branches, you know, I took a very broad brush, you know, and basically just kind of streaked in, you know, this kind of general shape or movement. So what you're seeing here, let me blow this up a little bit. What you're seeing here now is these spaces that are light now used to have this dark, you know, filled in. If this was a shape, and then I came back in and I basically started putting those lights in between, kind of breaking it up.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. You know, painting in the light behind the tree. Okay. Yeah, because I didn't want to sit there and make a lot of individual paint strokes. So I made a couple of paint strokes in the beginning, you know, and all of this was just kind of this big, it wasn't really a solid block, it was kind of broken up, but, you know, overall it was a big dark shape. And then I broke that up into, you know, smaller little areas of light.
Was it a complementary type of color? Was it a pale color, like the sky behind it?
You mean,
was the shape dark? Was the shape
the shape is what you see. It's that kind of darker, cooler gray.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was all pretty much so laid in at one time. And then you know, toward the end of the painting, I came back in and I added in a couple of strokes at the very end, you know, and that's these kind of sharper lines in here.
Mm-hmm.
But all of this gray back in here, that was all sort of there to begin with.
Now, because many times, like the guy was saying, Kevin was saying, we look at a landscape and we don't know where to attack it first.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the grid might have been beneficial to some beginner like Mike, you know, in trying to figure out what they should do first, and then be able to put in different things in different parts of the grid. But also having a photo of it would be great too.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you know, on something like this, and painting at the size that I was painting it, I didn't have any illusion that I was going to go out there and get it all done in one sitting. You know, and so, you know, I basically, when I went out there, what I was looking for was the overall composition and where the light and dark areas were. And in really that first sitting, which was really about maybe 2.5, 3 hours, you know, I got in, you know, all the big shapes, you know, the hill, kind of these big general shapes for the trees. And I started, you know, really kind of working, you know, in this area, just trying to fill in some of the background and figure out, you know, where the trees were that I could clearly see, and what part of it just kind of fell into this, you know, overall mass of the hill back there. And then the same thing on this side. And that's really before I even got into trying to figure out what was going on with the sky. And then at some point, I think it was like the second setting, I really started beginning to kind of figure out where the water was and how much of it I could actually see. And then I started laying in some color, you know, just basic color for the sky. Though, as I said, it was a much darker value, you know, than what it ended up being, you know, in the end. It was probably closer to kind of the value down here where the cursor is, you know, kind of this mid-tone blue. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Okay. I was watching a video on Prime Video. I think that some of the ladies might like it. It's one of the early female artists that was in France back in the 1700s. Named Elizabeth B.G. Labron. And you might enjoy that when you just want to relax, but still have a video of inspiration that you might want to see, especially Eloise, because she was a portrait artist. And I think she did over 600 portraits back in the 1700s.
What is the name again?
And then Elizabeth B.G. B-I-G-E-E Lebron, B-R-U-N, Lebron. And she's I think it was Prime Video. You can put it in your search engine. But it's a free video, I think, if you can get it. But,
okay. Claudia, can you maybe send me an email with that name?
Will do.
Okay. Yeah, and I'll go ahead and I'll send that.
The reason why I say this is because there's not a lot of information about female artists back in the day, and she did paint Marie Antoinette.
Before the beheading.
Yeah. But hopefully she got it done, you know.
Yes, she did, and she escaped, and she went to Russia and Austria and different other places, and she finally came back, I think, and died in France, I think. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things about, you know, being a painter at that time was, you know, while they were running around whacking off all the heads of a lot of the public officials and folks like that, court painters fell into that group. And so if you were an artisan working for, you know, Louis, it was a good idea to pack your bags and leave.
Yes. Yes, yes, because most of all of them were commissioned artists. They were, she
Well,
painted
yeah.
a few of herself, but most of all of them were commissioned artists, and she made a pretty good living. She started painting when she was like 7. Her father, father was a painter, so
Yeah.
might like it. Just check it out.
Yeah, I know most people don't think of artists as being in any danger politically, but quite frankly, when winds change as far as directions of, society and ideas and things like that, and who's in power, a lot of times, because artists tend to cater to people who have a good deal of money and influence and power, they're kind of seen as not necessarily, being some of the common folk. And and so when regimes change, you'll see artists flee to other places, and that's pretty common. It happened during World War II, but it also happened all through the Renaissance and everything else. It's like sometimes it was just time to get out of Dodge,
Yes.
So, yeah, it can be a precarious life sometimes. So, anyhow, anybody got anything we need to talk about before we go away?
Yeah, Charles, this has been very inspirational.
And so it should be. It's inspirations for art on Monday.
That's right. Well, thank you for having this.
All right.
I want you to know I picked my paintbrush up again.
Hey! That's what I want to hear. Everybody, everybody, you don't have to create a masterpiece. Just get in there and play with some paint. It'll make you feel good. You might make a big mess of it, but hey, it will get you to the next thing, right? All right.
Okay.
So just as a reminder, I know Arnold's already gone to lunch. He's on a clock, but tomorrow at 2:00, all right, we're gonna have a share session. And so if you guys have work, send some things in. Jean, I saw an email from you this morning about your 18 by 24. I've got some of that. I've got some of John's stuff. I had some things left over I was going to share from the end of the year that some of you had sent in. So I've got a few things, but definitely if you've been working on something, if there's things you want people to look at and kind of talk about, ask questions, get it to me and I'll get it in the queue, and we'll see you guys at 2:00 tomorrow. Okay.
Sounds good.
Charles, I have a question.
Yeah.
This was Gwen.
Yeah.
Yeah, the book that you said you had picked up to get started again after you had left your job as an illustrationist, was it Fill Your Oil Paintings with Light and Color?
Yes. Yeah,
that looks beautiful.
Yeah, it is. It's a beautiful book, and he's got a lot of really beautiful art in it.
What was the name of the book again?
Yeah.
Did you go to my email?
It's Fill Your Oil Paintings with Light and Color.
Okay.
Say that again, Gwen.
Fill Your Oil Paintings with Light and Color.
Okay, thank you.
That's the name of the book. Okay, and June, to answer your question, when did you send your email?
Almost 2 weeks ago.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, I probably have that. Okay. Like I said, I had some things left over from the end of the year, and yours is probably one of them. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, right offhand, I know I had 1 or 2 things from Eloise. I know John had something. I think Bob had 1 or 2 things. Jean had some things. And I know I had a couple of the things from the drawings when we were drawing ears and noses and stuff like that. a couple of people sent some of those in. So anyway, I've got them collected. They're in the queue, and we'll look at them tomorrow. Okay. But you got more stuff? Send it to me. Okay.
Yeah, there's just one other thing on the books by Kevin Mcpherson. Somebody was asking about what the final picture had looked like.
Right.
So he has it on his book, volume 1, The Magic Grid Landscapes. And
Okay.
it's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks very different than than what you saw in the video. Because he's done a lot.
Right, yeah, it finished it out.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I was gonna try to find an image of that. So I know I can find it on Google. Anyway.
Yeah, it's just under his kevinmcpherson.com/sharp.
Okay. All right.
Slash what?
It's a /shop. SHOP.
Oh,
And
shop.
it has on the cover of one of his books, the finished picture of the pond.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll try to look at that tomorrow, when we're looking at stuff.
Thank
Okay.
you.
All right.
All right, everybody. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
All
Bye,
right.
Charles.
And we'll see you tomorrow too.
Right.
Bye.